buying a place in Europe, that's going to cost you a few €100,000 or dollars if you're in the States, or krona in Sweden.
Kroner, yes.
So how do you buy something that's cheaper and more affordable than something to rent here in Japan?
So I didn't really know much about akiyas, but I knew about renovation and DIY. That's how I grew up in Sweden. My parents, they bought a 120-year-old house in the suburbs of Stockholm. It was completely run down. They took a loan from my grandma and they bought this house. And me and my younger sisters, we built 3 houses and small houses of leftover wood. And that was my childhood. That's kind of a Swedish way. If you don't have the money to hire carpenters, you do it yourself. Obviously, we don't have earthquakes. We don't have natural disasters in the same extent as Japan. But I work as a model. I work 2-3 days a week. I had the time. I knew I wanted to be in Japan. So I was looking for a place, not necessarily to flip or sell or rent out, but more of a place that I could craft my own space and make my own house. Because not only the initial fees for moving in Tokyo was so high, I just found the general apartments pretty boring. No sunlight, the same boring wallpapers on the walls. If you have money, you can probably find something really nice.
A lot of money.
If you have a lot of money.
We talked to Alex from Tokyo Portfolio a few weeks ago, and the amounts needed for spacious space. Wow, what a way to phrase it. For spacious apartments with sunlight, with a view, is just incredible.
Yeah, so it costs a lot of money. In my case, I've saved up about $100,000, and after viewing maybe 10 different apartments in the Shibuya area, I found a place, and I knew the first moment I stepped inside this apartment that this can look incredibly nice.
So this was an akiya.
This was an apartment on the third and fourth floor. It's been featured in a lot of videos online, but not as... I'm renting it out now to a good friend and model friend of mine, Baya. She's also been featured in Caleb Simpson's "Hey, excuse me, how much do you pay for rent in Tokyo?" Mm-hmm. And she's showing him this beautiful house.
That's the first one you got?
That's the first one I got. And the whole story is in my book as well.
Okay.
But I found this place and I just felt the potential of this place. I brought my girlfriend in there and she was like, "Oof, dirty. Don't do this. What are you doing? No way this can look nice." But I bought it through the broker friend of this crazy Canadian friend of mine that told me to buy a place. And the fees for buying this place was about 500,000 yen.
About $4,000, 4,000 euros.
$3,500. And if I would have rented the same place, the upfront costs would have been about twice as high, because I went with a cheap broker of buying it. If I would have gone with a good broker, the fees would probably have been higher, but they probably would have bargained a little bit more in my favor. But I got about 2 million yen off on the price, and I could buy it for about $90,000 at the time, like really close to Shibuya in 2019. And then the renovation started, the fun thing. And I renovated it for about half a year, like piece by piece. I was living in my girlfriend's house because I spent all my money on buying this piece of shit. So I was living in her house for about half a year while doing modeling and then renovating on the side. Learning how to approach builders, learning what you're allowed to do. You can't do electricity, you can't do plumbing here. Learning where to buy wood. Like, I only have friends in the fashion sector, in the fashion industry. So learning the trade and how that works in Japan was a cultural shock in many ways.
When you set out to renovate that first place of yours, you mentioned just a few minutes ago that you grew up building tree houses and that it was kind of part of your upbringing to renovate and to do DIY. But how much did you feel like, looking at the space, you could do yourself, and how much did you realize after, like, oh, actually, I can't do all of this? Like, what kind of skill set did you go in with?
So more of like, I like open spaces. I like nature. I like sunlight. And you don't really need that much, really. Like, you need plumbing, you need electricity, you need maybe a bed. But there are some factors you can change in an apartment or a house, and there are some factors you cannot change. You can never change the location of a house. You can never change, or you can, but it's very hard. You can never change the location of the windows. So if you have good sunlight and the direction of the windows, there is endless of opportunities. To make the house bigger, it's gonna take a lot of manpower and a lot of money, and it's in most cases not possible. But if you have a space of this, in this case, we had about 39 square meters, 25 on the first floor, and then a little loft. And we built, me and my friends, we built a small staircase out of plywood. We just stripped everything out, and the kitchen was originally in the genkan right when you entered. We took away a wall and removed it, moved it to another part of the 25 square meters on the first floor. So most of the work was actually just demolition and just making it into a really cool, like industrial looking with a lot of natural light and a lot of natural wood.
To open up the space and then redo the kind of walls and flooring just to make it look nice.
Yeah, but when you say redo, like I just put plywood on the walls and then maybe some paint. Like material itself is not really expensive. It's just the imagination and the time spent into doing this. And I'm very passionate about it too. I love creating things, spaces, videos. Like being creative is something. If I didn't do that in my life, I don't think I would be happy.